Okay, guys, so let's start today's class. So first is 2 minute recap for the previous class. As in the previous class, we have, discussed regarding the operators and flow controls in Java. So from today, we will start uh, learning the arrays in Java. So for arrays, the basic concept of arrays to store the multiple values of similar types in one variable is the basic concept of arrays. So similarly, the thing is how you declare an array and how many types of array are there in Java. So if I tell you the type of arrays in Java, so first type is single dimension array, single dimension array, and second one is multi-dimension array. That means we'll let you know with the examples. Suppose we have some bunch of data that is some integer data, right? So we'll write here int arr1 and we'll apply this bracket to to tell compiler that this is a array, and we'll assign some values here like -7 comma 5 comma 1 comma 2 comma -4 and comma 3 comma 0, right? And we'll close this. So this array 1 represent this much of integer data, right? There are, I think, 7 elements in the array. So similarly, so this is known as single dimension array because there is only one dimension. Similarly, we have multi-dimensional array, means the two-dimensional array and three-dimensional array. So in multi-dimensional array, inside the array, there will be some sub-array, sub-single-dimensional array. Means if I declare an array of int arr2, right, arr2, and will apply two brackets here, then we have to use two curly braces here to initiate the value here. This will be your first element, right? And for the second element, you have to again apply the curly braces and you have to write the values here: 5, 6, 7 and 8. So think here, the thing is, it is not necessary that you have the sub arrays of similar length. That means you can see here in this sub array we have 4 elements, and in this sub array also we have the 4 element. But in Java this is not necessary. We can put here some other elements also. Means in two-dimensional array we can have multiple sub arrays with the multiple values, means the with the different values, means with the different length of that array. So this type of array is known as jagged array in Java. So this is the concept that interviewer can ask, what is the jagged array in Java? So any two-dimensional array, means not two-dimensional, any multiple dimension array contains sub-array with the different size. So that array will known as jagged array. So this is the concept of jagged array in the Java. So this is the thing that we, initializing the array at the time of declaration. Here we have declared the array. So there are two types in Java. With that, we can declare the array. First one, like if we use here byte and use the sign, then use array 3, right? And another one way is that I have told you that this, right? Here I can use byte arr4 and this bracket. So the question is there any difference between these two declarations? So as of now, as for this case, there is no difference, right? This array 3 will act as a array and array 4 will also act as an array. But once you do comma arr5 and here you can do arr6. So there is some difference between arr5 and arr6. So in this declaration, ARR3 and ARR5 both are the byte array, but in this declaration, the array 4 is array 4 variable is array, but array 6 is just a byte variable. This is not considered as array. So if you want to, declare multiple variable, that will be the array, then you have to follow this approach. If you want that a single variable with the array, then you have to follow this syntax to declare the array. So basically, if you have a single variable, single entity, then no matter which syntax you are using to declare the array, but if you want to declare multiple variables in a single line, then you have to, follow this syntax to declare the array. Okay. So jagged array and this syntax is important. The difference between these two syntax. So there is a concept of declaring array. So basically, if you declare the array like this, then you have to provide the size of that array. So let's see, the size of this array is 10. And also here you have to, provide the size of the array. So here you can see the compiler is, giving the array that you are, so some error is giving, right? Syntax error and token 10 delete this token, right? Token 10 is not applied here because once you assign some values here, you can see here, I have declared and assigned the values at the same time in the array. But here we are only declaring the variable. So once suppose here I am writing here ARR3 is equals to, I will, can do like this new array and we have to pass the size now in this array. So let me see what is this array. Import array, it's saying that import array, not from the array, it should be from the util java.util dot star. Then okay, it's something wrong. Just a second, guys. What is this saying? Because the array is object, right? So because the array is an object, so it should work as, so because here it should be the type of the variable that you have declared. So new int means it will, you know, work as a object. Like this array 3 will work as a object once you use the new keyword here, right? So it should work, right? Array 3 should work because why this is error? Because we have used here byte and here we are using the int. So once I write the byte, the array will means the error will gone. So you have to, you can declare the variable first and you can assign the size, and later you can, assign. So here we have the array size 10. So we can, assign the values here, right? ARR, and use index 0. This is the index. So index 0, you can, use some integer value, that is byte. ARR 3 should be the variable name. So once you print ARR 0, right? Once you print ARR 0, once you print ARR 0 dot system dot println, so it will, you can print it like this. You can access the array element like this. So I will put here ARR3 system dot out dot println. Okay, it should not be the capital. So once I run it, you can see we will get as 12 in the output. So currently there is 0 because we have initialized the value in 0th index and we are accessing here the 3. So once I put the 0 here, you will get that it will print 12. So why I put it here 3 in the starting? Because to tell you that the default value of an array is 0 0 for the byte, short, int, and long. If you declare any array as type of byte, short, int, and long, then the default value will be 0 0 for every index, right? So here, as the size of this byte array is 10, so there will be 10 indexes, means you can store 10 byte values inside this. So once I, try to access index 8, so what it will print? It should print 0 because the default value of this array is 0 0. So if you declare a array as float and double, then the value will be 0 0. The default value will be 0 0. And if you declare a variable of array as a string, then the default value will be null. And you can, you can declare an array with an object also, object type also. So that in that case also the default value will be null, as in case of string, because a string is also a class. So for the objects, the default value is null, and for double and float, default value is 0 0, and for int, byte, short, and in long, the default value is 0 0. So another concept in array is equilibrium array. Equilibrium array. What is this equilibrium array means? Okay. So equilibrium means equilibrium array index. There is a concept of equilibrium array index, right? So what does it mean, equilibrium? So any index in the array, suppose we take this array, right? The single dimension array. So any index, I'm talking about the index, any index, for that, if the lower index's value sum is equals to the upper index's value sum, then that index will be known as equilibrium index. So if I consider for this array, so if I consider this index, this is 0, 1, 2, and 3. Index 3 will be the equilibrium array, because if you add -7 plus 5 and plus 1, you will get -1. And if you add these -4 plus 3 and 0, then also you will get -1. That means the sum of lower indexes value and sum of upper indexes value for this index 3 is equal. That means the index 3 for this array is known as equilibrium index. Correct. And also, if you see this index 6 is also an equilibrium index, because if you do the sum of these arrays will be the 0, and sum of upper indexes means there is no upper index. So that will be 0. So this index 6 is also known as equilibrium index in the array. So this is the concept of equilibrium, and this is the concept of jagged array. So one more concept of rotating the array, right? One more concept of rotating the array. So there is two type of rotation. One is left rotation, another one is right rotation. So for left rotation, what will happen? Suppose for this array we are doing the left rotation. So every value will shift one index to the left, right? So where will 7 go? So 7 will go to the upper index, means 7 will go to the index number 6, and then 0 will come to the 5, 3 will come to the here 4, and then 4 will come to the 3, 2 will come to 1, 1 will come to 1, and 5 will come to at 0 index. So this is known as, left shifting of array, means left rotation, you can basically say. Similarly, right rotation is known as if you put the highest index element to the lowest index element. So that is known as right, means you shift all the elements one position right in the array. That is known as right rotation. So by programming, by doing program, we can achieve this. Sometimes we have some problems to solve like this. We have to rotate the array. So basically that time that single array will work as a circular array, right? So here some indexes will be there. So here you can, here this is a circle, so you can, rotate it right and left. So these are the concepts for array. So one more question can be there regarding array. So interviewer can ask that where that array will get stored in JVM, in the memory. So basically the answer is it will get stored in the dynamic memory. One more question here. What will happen? What will happen if you declare an array with negative size, right? Suppose here I'm putting -10. Will there be any error at compile time? So as you can see, right, compiler is not throwing any error and not, showing any error that you have declare an array with the negative size. But once you try to access this array, so runtime means the JVM will throw an array. Once I run it, right, you can see here exception in thread main Java negative array size exception. That means we have, you know, dec declare some array with the negative size. So we can declare array with a negative size, but that will be, the exception will be thrown during the run. Compiler will, accept these things. One more question. I will leave this question to you guys. You guys have to search it on Google, or you guys have to, understand by self. Suppose we have some byte array like here. If I put here some integer value, means the 200, right? So means let put it. So here, right? Here the compiler is, compiler is saying that the array is byte array and you cannot assign integer values because the size of that byte is till 127, and I am, assigning the value 2020, right? 220. So it is, greater than that 127. That's why it's saying error. But the question is, if we assign some value dynamically, suppose we have an string array and we are putting the integer value at any index of that string array, then what will happen? does there will be any error at compile time, or there will be any exception at runtime? So this is the question that you guys have to solve. I will, I will now move uh, to the objects, oops concepts in Java. So this is all about array, and now we'll start the object oriented programming concept. So basically, for oops, we must have the knowledge of classes and objects, as we all know that what is class and what is object. So for the oops concept, the first thing is to understand the constructor, how the constructor works, and what is the basically constructor. So if I tell you what is constructor, so basically constructor is similar to a method. The method, like we have declared a method here, the main is the method of this simple class, right? So similarly, we have the constructor also with the name of this class. So if we try to create constructor here, then we can write public. Then we have to, write simple class, and we just create the body of that constructor. So see here in this method, there is a return type void. That means this method is not returning anything. But for constructor, you cannot write any return type because the constructor doesn't return anything. It is just being used to create the object of that class. So how it is being to use here? What you need to do, just you do simple. Here I am just creating object of that simple class. So you have to write simple class, right? And here you have to do new simple class, right? Simple class, and you will just call the constructor. So the thing that you have written this side means the right side, this is you are calling the constructor. So you can match the name simple class and simple class, right? So this is the constructor that you are calling during the object creation. So this will work as a object of this simple class. So can't we create object of simple class without, declaring any constructor? So there is a concept of auto constructor, right? So once you create a class, the compiler will create automatically a constructor that is known as default constructor. So even if you do not create any constructor in your class, then compiler itself will create a default constructor for you that will be a non-parameterized constructor. So what does it mean, non-parameterized and parameterized? So here the constructor that I have created, that as you can see here, the inside the parenthesis, we have not provided anything, but you can see here in the main method, there is a parameter that is accepting the string array, correct? So this method is known as, you can say this method is accepting a parameter, but this constructor is not accepting any parameter. So this is similar to your default constructor that Java automatically create. But the developer, means that any guys that is writing the Java class can create their own constructor with the parameters and with the non parameters also. So there is a concept of overloading the constructor. So you can overload the constructor also, means you can create multiple constructor with the same name, because same name means the constructor must be the name of the class. The constructor name should be the similar to the class name. So you can, how you can create multiple constructors, right? Because with the similar name, you, how you will get access that constructor. So there is a concept of method overloading and constructor overloading. So you can create multiple constructor inside a single class. Like here, if I try to create public single, what the name of this simple class, right? Simple class. Here you can pass some value, integer num1 and comma and num2, num2. Okay. So this constructor is known as parameterized constructor. So the thing is here, someone can ask a question, right? That what will happen if we provide a return type to a constructor? Suppose here I'm writing int, right? And I'm just returning here, just return num1, right? Num1 is integer. So there will be no compile error. But you can see here, there is a yellow line. Once I hover mouse, this method has a constructor name. The compiler is saying that this method has a compiler constructor name because the class name is similar to the this method name. So this constructor will work as a method, not as a constructor. So here, if you try to put values, right, I am just assigning 2 and 4, then you will get an error because there is no constructor with this parameters that you are passing. You are passing here two parameters, but you don't have any constructor in the particular class that can initialize object with two parameters. Means there is no constructor because you have this constructor, but this constructor now will work as a method because you have, you know, written the return type of this method. So just remove this return type. Let's see. Once I remove this return type, you will see here the error from there has gone. Means compiler, find out something that there is a constructor that is accepting two parameters. Similarly, you can see here I have overloaded the constructor. Means I have created two constructor, but the parameter of the constructor is different. So compiler understand based on this the parameter that you are passing. So here you can see here I have two parameters, and also I can create another constructor with two parameters, but here I will different parameter data type. Here I will put the string, so it will work perfectly. So this is also known as constructor overloading. Here we have the same name of constructor, but the parameter type is different, right? This constructor is accepting two integers, and this constructor is accepting one string and one integer. So this is basically, I wanted to tell you the constructor overloading. So same concept you can use for the methods also. You can create multiple methods with same name but the different parameters, right? But remember, changing the return type does not mean the method overloading, right? if you create if you create, suppose I am just creating a method, right? Public static. Here I'm just returning int sum, and I'm just accepting two integer, int num1 and int num2. This is perfect, right? I will return num1 here. I'm not doing any calculation here. I will return num here, but if I write here, I will copy it, and I just here do the return type of this is a string. Right? This method is returning a string, and here I will, instead of integer, will return. So you can see this is not allowed, right? This is not known as, even this is not known as method overloading, because you only have changed the return type, not the parameter, right? So for overloading, your parameter should be different, Either it is different with the number of parameters, either it is different with the type of that parameters. So that scenario will known as method overloading, right? Here, if I change it to the double, right, then it work fine. So here our agenda was to tell you the method overloading. So there is one more concept. Can we have constructor, means private constructors in our class? So yes, we can have the private constructor. We will, guys, we will let you know the access modifier in the later classes, but for now we understand that we can have the private constructors also. So will be the scenario for declaring the private constructor? We will see it later. So this is the basic concept of method overloading. That is the basic concept of learning OOPS. Okay, so here one more concept that I want to discuss is that you can see the main method. The main method is static, right? So what does it mean, the static keyword? So this is also comes under OOPS. So we'll let you know now what does it mean, the static keyword, right? So once you declare any method like static, right? So that method will be accessible with class itself, means you do not need to create object of that class. See here, if I do not write static here, right? And also I do not write static here. So if I try to access here, if I try to access here class, simple class, just copy it. I'm copying here. Simple class dot, you can see here, once I do dot, only main method is coming, right? Other methods are also there, right? Some and two some methods are there, but these that methods are not coming here because that methods are not static methods. So for non-static methods, we have to create the object. See, see here. If I do obj dot, then you can see here clone, and you can see here some two some methods are here that we can use, because here the sum method is not static, so we have to create the object to access these sum methods. But here the main method is static, so we do not need to create any object to access the main method. Correct? Means the static method, you can use the static methods directly by the class. So basically it refers to the class label. Similarly, if you guys have learned, there is a class math in Java. So math class has almost all the methods and variables static. So you the static keyword you can use for the variables also, not only for the methods. So that variable will be accessible at the class label, right? You don't need to create the object for that. So the the thing, why we have the static methods, main method is static in Java. So here, see, at the initial label, once your program will start the execution, so there will be no object, right? At the initial level there will be no object. So how your JVM will know, right, where in which object uh, your main method belongs to, because there is no object, right? So what JVM will do, JVM will execute this main method with reference to the class That's why we must have to make this main method as static. So I think you guys have understanding for the static methods, but here the question is, it can be access static methods and variable by creating the object. I, I mean, you know, earlier I had told you that we don't need to create the object to access the static methods, but question is that can't we access a static method by creating the object? So here you can see I have obj object. Let's see, obj object dot. Can we get main method here? Can you see here main method? If I type main, you can see here that main method is there. So for the static methods, we can access that static method by creating the objects also, right? But if we do not create the object, then also we can access that static methods, static variables in Java. So these are the basic concept in Java for the OOPS, that constructor and the static and the method overloading and constructor overloading. So from next class, we will, discuss some more concepts of OOPS. So for now, this is the thing that, for today's class, I wanted to discuss with you guys. Okay, so let's meet in the next class for the next some important concepts of OOPS. Okay, bye bye.